Hi to everybody, especially the people I don't know, because I seem to know quite a lot of people in the crowd today, so thank you for your support. My name is Donna Stern. I head up programming and acquisitions at YES, the satellite platform here in Israel. And this is a really exciting time to be in scripted television to be in scripted series, because there's so much production going on right now and so many outlets that are airing original scripted programming. It's actually true of the US, not so much in Israel, where reality still rules, prime time. But we're going to look to the US right now and have a 45-minute discussion about the changes that are going on in that marketplace. So it's really a great honor for me to have the opportunity to sit down with such a troika of industry insiders, all of whom are working within the scripted business. So thank you for flying all the way over here. We had to pull John away from his concert tour, by the way. John was actually performing over the weekend with Rami Kleinstein, so we're very fortunate to have him here with us. This is true. He's just... So our first guest, I actually got a text. That's a good, turn off cell phones, people. It's a good reminder. Our first guest here is one of television's most forward-thinking strategists and creative deal makers. Sandra Stern, no relation, though I wish. Probably, if we go back long enough, we'll find something. Is the Chief Operating Officer of Television for Lionsgate and co-runs the television division. During Sandra's time at Lionsgate, she's paved the way for such successful productions such as Nashville, Mad Men, Anger Management, Nurse Jackie, and the new original Netflix show, much talked about, Orange is the New Black. Thank you, Sandra. Welcome. And just to put us in the right mood, we're going to show a little showreel of Lionsgate's programming. Or not.
You as excited about this as we are?
Yeah. Let's
go! Okay, I'll bang you.
Boom! Yes!
Lionsgate.
Wow.
This is money.
Brings you the most talked about shows on television.
Make no mistake, we're not afraid of provocative.
With network-defining series like Weeds.
You said Mazel Tov, Steven.
Stevie! S-T-E-V-I-E!
And Mad Men, the series that redefines culture.
I think it's an exciting new angle.
The award-winning series entering its 7th season.
I don't know how you could control yourself.
So, anything new?
From creator Jenji Kohan.
You look great. I mean, who knew you could rock orange?
Please.
Comes the breakout series of the year, Orange is the New Black, with episodes streaming directly on Netflix.
I will cook you, bitch!
Lesbians can be very dangerous. It's the testosterone.
What?
Lionsgate is leading the way once again with the hilarious new game show, Deal With It.
I just won $5,000!
I just want you to destroy the car.
Hey! That's my car!
Returning for an all-new season,
Heartbreaker.
Moneymaker.
Nashville will prove once again why it's television's hottest drama.
Like a telescope. Deacon was just telling me about your little tour.
It's just a show for people who love actual music.
Based on the successful Spanish-language show Terminales.
Sorry I'm late. I'll get you a draft by tomorrow.
Floaters don't write feature stories in major newspapers.
Chasing Life makes its debut on ABC Family.
Are you saying you'd blow off your dead grandmother for a story?
Hell yeah. My career? It's like my life.
With 100 episodes and counting.
Managing anger is my specialty. I'm a therapist now.
Don't make me laugh.
Charlie Sheen has successfully returned to television with Anger Management.
I have to go to prison.
For how long?
About an hour.
Wow, you have a great lawyer.
With 19 Emmy wins.
And the Emmy goes to Mad Men.
6 Golden Globes.
Mary Louise Parker wins!
and over 100 nominations.
This demands your attention.
It's awesome.
Lionsgate. There are no limits.
Looks pretty impressive. You've been very busy. We're just going to introduce John next, and John Moranis is the CEO of Entertainment One, which is a Canadian powerhouse that produces and distributes E1's original productions as well as third-party content to over 500 different broadcasters in more than 150 territories. Shows like The Walking Dead, Rogue, Rookie Blue, Hell on Wheels, and many more to come. John oversees all aspects of E1's television's day-to-day activities, including development, production, licensing, financing, distribution. The list goes on. You are, and you have time to play piano. That's amazing. We're going to show a little clip of some of E1's shows.
Step outside, you risk your life.
You gotta calm down.
You don't have a choice. The only thing you can choose is what you're risking it for. Really suggest you come with me.
Come this ridiculous long way to make a whole lot of money in a short while.
Only two types come up here. A guy with a shovel and a guy with a business plan.
Shovel guy.
You afraid of dying?
To having nothing in your pocket but a head full of hope.
You gonna miss all of us sooner or later, lady.
You want to try to kill me? Come for my gold?
Where is it? I have a traitor. You're gonna help me find him.
My legend's intact. Jimmy still trusts me.
There is no way I'm bringing you in on this thing.
Surprise.
You give me what you get on Jimmy, and I'll turn a blind eye to whatever vigilante sideshow you're running here.
Any escalation of this is going to be bad for business.
I say we meet fire with fire.
Maybe today, maybe tomorrow.
Do you really believe you can build this road?
I make no apologies for my temperament.
You lost your mind in that snow.
Too much integrity. That was always your problem.
I'm running out of time. In a little over a month. If I go into that barn when the Hunter meteor storm hits, the troubles disappear. But then, so do I.
I choose not to give in to my fate, and you can too.
I'm not ready to leave, either of you.
A lot of people are gonna die.
Everybody take cover.
Here we go again.
Wow. It does. It looks. And our final guest here today is Mark Corman. He is actually the man who helps make sure these shows have on and off-screen talent that makes them possible and hopefully ensures their success. Mark is a partner and agent on Hollywood's largest agency, William Morris Endeavor. His roster of clients includes the most impressive list, really. I'm just going to read it off the page because it's that good. Creators and executive producers of numerous shows, including Vampire Diaries, The Following, CSI, American Horror Story, Glee, Law & Order, Revenge. And if that's not enough, he also represents quite many feature film directors, including Buzz Luhrmann, M. Night Shyamalan, and my favorite, Danny Boyle. So thank you, welcome. Mark didn't prepare a show reel, but I'm sure. In pantomime, hopefully. So before we actually get going, I just wanted to ask you if you think it's just a strange coincidence or a necessary evil that you're all trained Jewish lawyers on stage right now.
Our parents are so proud.
Yeah. Are they? Mark, are you?
I was a criminal defense lawyer, and when I was first asked.
I think it's on.
Hello?
Yeah.
I was a criminal defense lawyer for about 8 years in Chicago, and when I first moved to LA, I was asked the question when I became an agent. Well, I don't understand. You're a criminal defense lawyer. How does one become an agent? And I actually think they're the same jobs. I think it really did a good job of training me how to deal with unreasonable but creative people.
Sandra, do you find that helpful? You've got some crazy, unreasonable people on your roster.
We live with crazy, unreasonable people. It's what we like to do. But my background was in literature before I became a lawyer, so I just thought it was a great opportunity to take a profession where you could never possibly get a job and use it with something that a lawyer, which is a job that nobody wants to actually do.
So is that how you find your way?
That's how we found our way.
And you, John, you found your way from business development?
I finally found my way because I had Rami Kleinstein open for me. I was a frustrated musician, actor, and it seemed like law school was the best way to go as a son, Jewish son of a lawyer. So I followed that route, did entertainment law for a couple of years, and then finally worked my way into a film and television company.
So everybody's mothers are really proud today, or not?
My mom's felling right now.
All right, we're going to start off with Sandra, and if that's okay. And we saw the show reel, and your lineup is really impressive. You've produced and sold shows to everybody, all different type of platforms and channels, from traditional pay television like Showtimes and Stars to basic cable like AMC, and obviously the new digital subscription players in the original production business like Netflix. How is that similar and different from pitching and producing to traditional kind of players and the new services that we're seeing coming up?
Well, in many ways it's very different. When my career had been largely making traditional television for Netflix networks. I had worked at Sony, and we worked primarily with networks. And when I was asked to start a TV company at Lionsgate, I looked at where the opportunities were, and the opportunities were in the really underserved markets, which were cable. People were not working in cable, and that looked like a great place to really build a business, to be able to be innovative, to sell the kinds of shows that appealed to me, that were a little bit offbeat, that would not find a home in a traditional network situation, to put together financial models and business models that were a little bit more creative and innovative than the, cut and dried slicing salami network business. And it's been a lot of fun. Every day you wake up in the morning and you try and figure out how to be better and smarter and more strategic, working with the network as a partner to help them create a business model. I find that in the newer outlets, particularly these days, the digital outlets, the network is more of your partner. You're working together.
Not as many notes?
Not only not as many notes, but you work together in building a business model, because we have been the first on so many platforms that we've helped them, and they've helped us craft something that works for both of us. It's much less of an adversarial situation. We don't fight as much.
Is that true, Mark?
Ish. Look, I think our marketplace is in an incredible place right now. 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you went to the networks, and it was you kind of know what our networks are. You know, if you're going to do a criminal procedural show, you're going to go to CBS. If you're going to do something more sort of female skewing a family, ABC. But that has all changed, and I think now with the proliferation of all the cable outlets and the streaming services, The great news for us on the agenting side is just build it and let the marketplace decide where it goes. We were involved in a spec sale recently on a script that, you know, when we talked about it, where do you think it goes? It's a sci-fi thing, but it had a lot of heart, and Steven Spielberg was involved in it, and we talked to Steven about where he thought we should go, and we all decided, let's let the marketplace decide itself. And so we took the script to 8 or 9 different places, both cable and network. Every single entity wanted the project, which, by the way, is going to star Halle Berry.
I like how you say that, by the way.
By the way,
Stars Halle
yeah,
Berry.
I'm an agent. But every entity wanted it, and it resulted in a crazy bidding war, but it wound up at CBS. And in a million years, I would never have thought it was going to go to CBS. We thought it was going to go to FX. And FX is the home of The Shield and Sons of Anarchy and American Horror Story, much edgier fare. But for many reasons, we ended up going to CBS, and I think because of Under the Dome and the success of Under the Dome, this is going to be a summer program. We wound up there, but again, the marketplace really told us what made the most sense, and I don't think that would have happened 3 or 4 years ago.
John, you've had some experience in producing for totally different outlets that are coming up in this marketplace. You're now producing, we saw a little clip, if you saw one of the actors in Game of Thrones in your clip, he's starring, now, are we going to spoil it to say that he's not coming back to Game of Thrones, or?
Oh, you're talking about Klondike?
Yes.
Yeah, Klondike.
So one of the projects that you're currently involved in is a mini-series for the Discovery Channel, and I want to stress this is a scripted series for a factual channel. How?
Well, we didn't tell them that, so that was how we ended up selling it. Just a trick out there. You might try to use that sometimes. Well, what's interesting is there's probably over 50 networks now in the US that are commissioning original scripted programming. So, and when I started, I think there were 4. So you'd think
how many of them got into the scripted business, do you think, the last couple of years?
I would say a lot. I would say probably at least 15. And it's new platforms, as we were talking about, as well as networks like Discovery that were in the non-scripted business or history. And all of a sudden they realize in order to help build their brand, they need to get into the scripted world. And it's a challenge because it's a lot more money to do something well and to create a buzz and to create noise, especially when there are 50 channels out there all doing originals.
I actually think Sandra did a phenomenal job with Mad Men. You know, before Mad Men, AMC was a place that repurposed old movies. And when Mad Men happened, I think everybody opened their eyes and said, well, wait a second, they're doing original programming, AMC is now exploding, and I think everybody got on board. I mean, WGN, which is a new outlet for us, was the Chicago affiliate that broadcast baseball and basketball games. They're now in the original programming business because they look at Mad Men and they think, well, AMC is now an incredible success. We want the same. And so I think our world is changing as a result.
And that's our new series, new model, which we'll talk about later probably, you know, with new models. But everybody's looking around and saying, how do we make noise? Because there are so many new
Is there
networks.
room for so many? I mean, we try to keep track, and I have to say, we actually pay people to do this, to run Excels and wake up in the morning and read Deadline and see what's happening. We're tracking over 350 new scripted series.
I think good series find their way. I think if you brand properly, and if you do good work, the audience is going to find you. They do. The first series that we put on Stars, really the first original series, was a series called Crash. And we looked at Stars brand, and at that time they were doing pretty much high-end movies. They did not get the movie Crash, which was a Lionsgate film, but they were a high-end sort of classy movie channel.
A traditional pay television movie service.
That's a pay television movie service. So we thought the best way for them to launch an original series was to do a series based on a high-end classy movie. And that was a great idea. Only, as it happens, the show that has worked best on Stars has nothing to do with classy movies. It's a complete TNA
Spartacus was a movie, we should say. Totally not, the series totally not based on that movie.
Totally not based on it, and certainly not the high-end caliber of you know, what we envision.
That's the interesting question. So there's so many outlets now, but truthfully, there's a finite pool of talent. And so I believe the cream rises. You know, the better shows are going to ultimately win. The better writer-creators are ultimately going to win. The script that I talked about that's going to CBS, that writer, no one had heard of a day before in their lives. He had done nothing.
Right.
He'd been sitting in his apartment writing for 10 years, and he finally felt it was ready.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're 100% right.
Right,
It provides much opportunity.
That's right. The show that we're doing for WGN was created by a writer who sat in his room and wrote it.
And I have one at WGN as well.
Right.
Same. I mean, a writer that's a prolific. He was a showrunner of Star Trek, a guy named Brandon Braga, but he wrote something on Spec, the Salem Project. It's a witch project.
You at Salem, and ours was somebody who's a baby writer on Masters of Sex.
Okay, I have a show on WGN too, and I also have a baby writer.
Who was sitting in his room for 10 years.
And you have a baby.
Really?
No.
Getting nowhere.
Nothing I know of.
John, I'd like to ask, you know, how can you finance? I mean, how can the networks finance all these shows? Is there a profit to be made and from such proliferation of...
Profits, we do it for the love of the art. Money has nothing to do with it.
You can't even say that.
I'm pretty good. I thought it's pretty good. You almost
For the
believe me.
record, it does for us.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So, you know, what's
For Mark,
interesting...
it's all about the money.
Well, what's interesting is, you know, Sandra and I are both, you know, representing independent studios. I mean, we're not major studios. But we're putting shows on the air that, you know, you would see from any studio. It's a new world order, and we were talking about getting these shows commissioned by the U.S. and the 50 networks in the U.S., but at the same time, there's also all the international buyers that are commissioning basically English language U.S. programming. So, you know, what's happening now is that TV series in the U.S. that were historically kind of put together just with the U.S. license fee, and the studio deficited, and then the international was profit, but it was really more about the U.S., is now opened up.
So you need us.
What's that?
You need us. You need our money.
We need you.
We
That's
always
why do you think we're
needed you.
here,
We now
for crying out
admit
loud?
it.
Oh, okay. Now you admit it. Now you care. And obviously there's money coming in, you know, from the SVOD services. Either they're commissioning their own original programming or what has essentially become the new syndication window for reruns.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting as well, is that Netflix, prior to 2 years ago, was sort of what we thought our salvation on the scripted side, because we could repurpose our programs to Netflix. They would acquire shows that, you know, Glee is an example.
By the way, they only started a couple years ago buying actual television series. Before that, you know, in their streaming service, they were just airing movies up to Sandra's deal back in 2011. That was only 2 years ago.
But I will tell you that the world had really changed because we had made a very small deal for Weeds. Now, this was probably 2005. When I say small deal, I mean $10,000 or $15,000 an episode. They were really just dipping their toe into acquisitions, had no idea whether that was going to be a fruitful market for them, and I think they were surprised to see, I mean, they were shocked as anybody that there was a market there, and of course the studios, seeing there was a market, went back and made them pay for it.
It became our new syndication
because
market, yeah.
I do care about money, John, unlike you.
So crass, Sandra.
I can't help it.
Oh, come on, this is Hollywood. There is no such thing.
You are a Jewish lawyer. Yeah.
What about, we're talking a little bit about Netflix and the new viewing models. You know, when I was a teenager, the word binge had a totally different connotation, all of it negative. Now everybody's binging on stuff. Television shows that you watch in succession. What's your take on it? Good, bad? You want to watch weekly? You want to let the audience choose?
I actually think it's fantastic. I think that the idea of how people watch television now allows people to watch more television. And the fact is, more people are watching television now than ever before. So the idea that you can sit at home and watch 6 or 7 episodes at a time, I think is a fantastic thing. And I think that...
But is there money in that?
Pardon me?
Is there still a lot of money in that? And
well,
allowing
I think
people
it's too, honestly, it's unclear. We were debating this before the panel, and I think both Sandra and I agree that it'll get figured out. I mean, I think each time something new happens, people question it, and our marketplace says, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And when Netflix in 2011 started to acquire product for real money, I think there was a sigh of relief, like, oh, there's the new syndication market. Now, Netflix is in the original programming business, so maybe they're not going to acquire as much, but others are popping up, and I think it'll just keep evolving, and yes, there'll be money.
with, Netflix has upwards of 31 million viewers. Is there going to be another market after that in the U.S. for those shows?
Well, that's a big debate. Everybody is hoping that there will be, because the interesting thing is that there are a lot of very smart people out there trying to create businesses. Netflix, 5 years ago was trying to figure it out. I was telling a story how as recently as 3 years ago, I talked to Netflix about taking an original, and they said, no, that is a business they were never going to be in. Or certainly they were not going to be in. And 2 months later, they called and said, kind of rethinking that, changed our mind. So I think things are evolving.
Everything's happening.
And that's the thing that's really exciting. It's like every generation is now, 15 minutes old. Things are changing so very rapidly. But what does happen is doors are opening and opportunities are opening. Even the whole notion of binging, there was some concern. I remember sitting with Netflix talking about how they were going to release Orange. They couldn't quite figure it out, and then decided that their DNA was to offer people choice. Couldn't really decide whether that was a good idea, whether people were going to binge on a show and then cancel their subscription, only to find that, in fact, that didn't happen. The thing that they feared had the opposite effect. More and more people were taking on subscriptions because of the word of mouth effect.
I'm of two minds, being a Jew, of course, I see all sides.
Both negative.
Yeah, exactly. It's first of all, content is king. I truly believe that. And so at the end of the day, and you were saying this, about talent, the good shows will rise to the top, and there will be a market, and platforms will want those shows, and they will pay for those shows, and money will be made. But the binging thing, I think, I love the idea of choice, but at the same time, there's something about showbiz, about, I talked about this earlier, about, it's the old circus trick. You kind of tease them and bring them into the tent. Sounds a little creepy, but the idea is, there is something about, come on in, you watch one episode, you like it, maybe you'll watch another one next week. I mean, you look at something like Walking Dead that I think is really built, and AMC is really broadcast in a traditional way, no binge viewing, but there's catch up, people find the show, discover the show, and there's opportunities for water cooler talk that may not exist in the same way when people are watching it the way they want to watch it. So I go back and forth on this issue.
Although because you're on digital, people are creating communities in a different way. The water cooler is no longer,
a physical water
work
cooler.
The next day. My niece watches with the community online. They dress up in prison clothing.
And
I don't know where they get prison clothing.
What's really fun, too...
She never told me she'd gone to prison.
On the talent side, what's really fun, too, is you watch your clients affect change. So I work with a guy named Joel McHale, who's the star of Community. Yeah. And Joel will send a tweet, and it will really have an effect on the show. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, social media is really interesting, but I'm not sure you can't, that necessarily doesn't need to be reconciled with binge viewing. Because again, about building a community, and the problem with the binge viewing, especially if not everyone's watching at the same time, it's a serialized drama, is all of a sudden people don't go to social media because oh my God, I don't want to find out what happened this week.
Spoilers.
So there, again, I love the idea of choice, but I'm not sure if that's the best model to really build an audience.
But the catch-up thing, I think, is incredibly compelling. And
Agreed.
For the shows that you hear about, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, that you haven't watched, and all of a sudden you take a weekend and you watch 6 or 7 episodes and you realize it's great, and you're in. And then you can't wait for the show to come back.
Talk about it,
exactly.
It builds. It's kind of an exciting way to watch TV.
We're not looking at the fact that the number of people who actually watch The Walking Dead on AMC at the time that it's programmed is so much smaller today than it was.
Sure, but
2 years ago.
16.2 million viewers. Last week's episode, bigger, and that's the live rating, bigger than Sunday Night Football on NBC.
In the demo.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Sorry, Bob.
Which is fantastic, but when you look at the average show, the number of people who are watching it as programmed may end up on a show like Nashville the live +7, which is the number of people who are watching it within 7 days, is more than double the number of
Which
people
is great
who
if
are
you can
watching it.
monetize
Look
it.
at Hostages, which is based on an Israeli format.
I can.
Hostages is on CBS. We represent the guy that runs the show. When it premiered, it premiered at very low numbers, and people were very, very concerned, and they still are. But then you look at the 30-day number, 18 million people.
But right now you're not monetizing the 30
but
days.
those advertisers are probably saying no
cares?
one's watching the commercials.
So who cares?
It's a challenge.
So one of the things some of the networks are doing is changing the way they commission shows and the way they air shows. There's more miniseries are back in a huge way. We don't call them that anymore, of course, because that's like movie of the week. Now they're event series, shorter run, no pilot, more of a traditional pay model, and definitely more like a Netflix.
I think that they have no choice but to keep up. You know, they need, again, the cream rises. They need quality programming, and a lot of the better creators don't want to do 22 episodes anymore. They'd rather do 13 or 14 because the storytelling is better. And we were talking earlier today, The Following. So we work with Kevin Williamson and Kevin Bacon, and at the time The Following happened, we wanted Kevin Bacon to do the show, and Kevin Bacon would only do the show if it was 15 episodes a season or less. And Warner Brothers, which is a pretty major studio, did not want to do that. And they said no. And they were going to lose Kevin Bacon. And then they realized, you know what? It's better that we build something fantastic for 15 episodes a season, and we'll figure it out with our international marketplace. We'll figure out our own business models. And I think that the reason for that is because when you're competing like shows with Walking Dead and Mad Men, you have no choice but to sort of get in the game.
You know, when you talk to the networks today, they're by and large pretty candid about the mystery of the future, that the traditional model, while there'll still be a place for it, I don't think traditional network television is going away anytime soon. There'll still be a place for it. There needs to be other paradigms as well that are complementary so that they can compete. So the traditional networks, Fox, for instance, NBC, for instance, are doing event-limited series. They may be 4 hours, they may be
12, up to
10 or 12 hours. We're doing 10 hours for Discovery. We're doing 4 hours for Bob Greenblatt. But they're big events, they're noisy.
And from a talent perspective, it's fantastic because now when we get material in or pitches in, there's just many, many more opportunities. We were talking earlier about a script called Wayward Pines that Night Shyamalan is just directed for Fox. We got that script and we realized it could never be 22 episodes. It felt a lot like Twin Peaks. Knight wasn't involved at the time. We gave it to Knight. Knight loved it. He immediately signed on, but he said, I'm not going to be able to do this 22, but we still felt it was a broad network play. We went to Fox. They not only liked the idea of doing 13, they embraced it. And it went to 10. And now it's an event limited series. They can promote 10 episodes, but the difference is the network is going to own the show. They're going to produce it themselves, so they can sort of justify the idea of lesser because they're making revenue both as a network on the advertising side and by owning the product.
Yeah, and that's really what's happening now is you're seeing this dichotomy. You're seeing a lot of independent producers building and starting businesses in the U.S. because they can bring international dollars to the table, and that's helpful to these networks that are going outside the traditional model where, you know, if they're doing 13 episodes or some limited series, it may not make sense. There's no syndication play. Maybe there's a Netflix play. So on the one hand, you're seeing sort of indies being able to come in with projects and financing models that are enticing. On the other hand, the networks, in order to justify it, are also saying, you know, we can own this, we can sell this around the world, and then, you know, look at a network like AMC, just bought Cello Media, you know, for $1 billion. These networks are now basically creating global footprints.
Although I will say that I have to disagree with you because my experience is a little different. We have a limited series at Fox that we own. We have a limited series at NBC that we own. Good content. A network always needs good content. It's great for them if they can actually monetize that content in an additional way with distribution. But if the content is good enough,
I agree.
That's always true.
I agree.
I mean,
content wins.
Right.
No doubt.
Right. And if you have a bidding war for your show, you're going to make a good deal with the network.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a good agent.
Yes.
That's kind of
Plug.
what you...
Plug for Dummy Me.
So is this the best time to be in independent television production?
Absolutely.
I think everybody probably says their time is the golden age, but I really do feel this is the golden age of TV production. There's more opportunity out there for people who are open their eyes and open their minds and look at new models and new paradigms. There is so much opportunity. The quality of the programming is, runs the spectrum. I think we're seeing the best TV that we've seen in a long time. I think the proliferation of voices has been good for the independents. It's been challenging in a positive way to the bigger studios who have to up their game.
What's amazing, you look at the talent on the feature side that are now working in television. When Bob Zemeckis is doing television, that would never, he started in television, but you wouldn't have had that conversation 5 or 6 years ago. And the actors, that show we were talking about stars Matt Dillon. Is Matt Dillon a humongous movie star? Probably not, but he's a movie star. And the idea of the feature talent pool coming into television, because quite frankly, there's better storytelling happening right now, it's a pretty amazing thing.
Great. So we have just 5 minutes left. I'm keeping time, really. So we're just going to do a quick fire round of identical questions to everyone, just whatever comes off the top of your head. Ready? Let's go. All right, Sandra, we'll start off with you. What is the best and worst part of your job?
The best part of my job is no rules. I'm encouraged to be creative and strategic and smart, and I don't have to get bound by this is the way we've always done it.
Worst?
The worst thing is there's not enough hours in the day and there's never enough money.
John, same question. Best, worst?
Two bests. One is just the global nature of our business. It's so exciting because it's not just about one market anymore. There are broadcasters and producers and talent all over the world. And the second thing is I get to perform with Rami Kleinstein. Worst is I got
performed for 10 minutes.
Worst I got to perform with Rami Kleinstein.
Out on this for a week.
Mark?
To me, the best is actually the micro side of it. There's nothing better from our side of things is when you hear a great pitch or you read a great script and you actually see it come to fruition. When it gets on the air, it's still an amazing thing and it happens very, very quickly. On the other hand, the worst part of my job is hearing not so great pitches and reading not so great scripts, which take up a lot of time.
What show do you wish was yours?
The Wire. It's my favorite show of all time.
John?
Mad Men.
You're just sucking up now. Now you've got to say Walking Dead.
Well, you know what? No,
trade.
I would trade. I was going to say Homeland, but I got to say it, maybe The Wire. I love that show.
One of the things we didn't get to talk about was the whole reboot, remake kind of trend that's coming into television now as well. So I'm just going to quickly ask this. Reboots, good or bad? And
I think it depends on the title.
all right, what show would you remake or reboot?
We had talked earlier. I think the dramas, lately it doesn't seem to be translating as well. Ironside did not do very well. But I think on the comedy side, if you brought back a show like Get Smart, I think that could be interesting, and who knows? Tomorrow a drama title could come out and people could absolutely freak out over it. Beverly Hills Cop, we were involved in the remake television version of that. It didn't get on the air.
Everybody was sure that was going to get
picked up. Yeah, and it didn't, and it just didn't work. And so I think it depends on the title.
So it just depends. If it's a good show, it'll reboot, remake?
I think
good,
it's
bad?
it's a marketing thing. It's a way to sell, but at the end of the day, it's also a danger because I think you get so caught up in the brand that you forget about just making a great show. And we've done it in a bad way. We did The Firm, and it's not a TV reboot, but it was a film, and we just lost track of what was good about the film. On the other hand, I'm excited about doing Rambo as a TV series, so with Avi Lerner. So who knows? Yeah.
You're doing Expendables with Avi.
I know.
You're doing, and Sandra, remakes, reboot, good, bad?
I think I have to agree with everybody. It's sort of it really depends. I do think you have a better shot of making it work if you don't just try to retread familiar ground. We're we're adapting American Psycho, but rather than going back and remaking that movie, we're doing it as a film, as a series with that character 25 years later. Hopefully, we hope that approach is more workable than just trying to remake a classic.
Actors, talent, who would you like to see on one of your shows?
Oh, I don't even know where to start.
So,
why don't you
John, go
start?
ahead.
Bryan Cranston.
You know, we have a list of actors that, on the feature side that I look at a lot. And I shouldn't say this out loud, but I'm hoping Eric Bana is going to do television. You know, we've been talking about that a lot internally. I have no idea if that's going to happen, but I hope that happens.
Sandra, you had a little time?
I have a little time. I actually have been trying to work with Seth Rogen for a long time. It's not such a classy answer, but
One funny Canadian.
but he's a funny Canadian.
We're wrapping up, really. I'm looking at the clock. What would you each consider your biggest success and worst, most embarrassing failure? And don't be shy. Mine, professionally, is I never bought Batman, so feel free, discuss.
Actually, my greatest success, I think, was, at least I counted, my greatest success was Mad Men, because I got a second chance. I had passed on the script, and then I got a
I wish
second
I had
chance.
that.
And that doesn't happen very often, so that was great. I think my biggest failure, I think, was Crash, when we never quite got it. We had a great brand, we had a great concept, we had a great team, and we just did not do a good job of bringing that to life.
John?
I think there's two things, and they're both lucky. When I was running television for Alliance Atlantis, CSI fell into my lap. And that's one where every studio passed. You know, Disney walked away from the show. CBS didn't want to own 100%. And so I think there's one thing that we all know about this business, that no one knows anything. And it's just about having those opportunities that present themselves. And Walking Dead was the same thing. It was, we didn't know how big it was going to be. So sometimes failure was, I think I mentioned already, The Firm. The Firm was just, it was all about the packaging, and we didn't focus enough on the creative.
Ironically, that show we did end up buying, so. I'm going back to law school.
And I would, for me, I would count probably my biggest success as Glee. It was a cultural phenomenon. It won 2 Golden Globes, and call it what you will today, it touched the world. And I think on the failure side, a show that probably people don't even know about is a show called Lone Star. That was a very short-lived show on the Fox network. It was
two episodes.
2 episodes. And at the time, I think the reason I think it's a failure, quite honestly, it was a very good show, and I think we chose the wrong place to put it.
And that's the kind of blame you take on yourself as an agent?
Yes.
Rare, but thank you.
I mean, it was a collective decision, but I was in the front of the decision-making process, so yes.
All right. We are out of time, but it's up to Sheila if she wants to open it up for a couple questions. I can't see anything. I see a big red clock counting down. I feel like I'm at the Emmys. I should wrap up my speech. Oh, look. Oh.
I can't really hear you, but I think the question is, how do we view the Israeli formats coming to our marketplace? Love it. Absolutely love it. I mean, it's honestly one of the reasons we're here. And I think that the Homeland thing, the Hatufim, give Rick Rosen and Avi Nir and obviously Giddy a lot of credit, and Howard Gordon et al. But I think it's phenomenal. I think hostages, the whole thing is fantastic. It just, with the proliferation of all these outlets, the idea of having successful shows, good shows that we can bring over to our marketplace, we need them.
Yeah, I echo what Mark said. It's first of all, I don't know how you guys do it. A small country, and the storytelling
Surrounded by
and the
enemies.
characters. It's, unbelievable. We picked up a format from Acapella called Reaching for Heaven. That we're out shopping in a number of territories right now. So I just, it's phenomenal, and please, more.
We've looked at formats for a long time. We've bought a lot of formats from a lot of different countries. We've set up a lot of formats from a lot of different countries. I think the biggest sea change in the U.S. today is the recognition that we don't have the exclusive license on creativity and good ideas, and that we're going out into the world and recognizing that there's a lot of really wonderfully talented people working everywhere, and we can benefit from it.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm afraid of Shira, so thank you.